Morning, everybody. Today is Tuesday, February 27th, 2018. This is MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. I am Ghost. To my left is Gorgeous George. He's been here the whole time. He didn't just walk in. That's Dan Tom over there. He's chilling. He's our MMA fight analyst. Dan E. Olkers.
Wow.
You're like Chuck E. Cheese. You're in New York. And to my right is Big John McCarthy. And he's here to share recipes, or what are you here for? Like, is there anything we could talk about with him?
I heard he has a cookbook.
Commentating.
Oh man, I just want got to talk about keto diet, paleo diet stuff, and that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, home improvement, stuff like that.
There you go. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's like 1993, John, right? Or 90? You started 94, right? Because 93 was the first one.
I was there for 93, and then first one I read.
Were you a fan or just behind the scenes?
No. I was there with Hoyce. I was one of his sparring partners,
right.
And I was actually there to be the bodyguard for Horian since he had every Gracie in the world wanting to kill him.
Oh, okay.
That's what I did.
You know the story you shared with me a little while ago?
Yeah.
About the ladder?
Yeah.
I got a story about a ladder.
Let's hear it.
Him and I would pants each other because we thought it was funny when we were younger.
Okay.
Well, I still think it's funny, but
Like Mike Perry tried to do to Max Griffin?
pretty much.
Okay.
And one time, my mom wanted us to bring down the Christmas ornaments.
Mm-hmm.
He talked me into going up on the ladder to do it. I went up to get stuff. He waited till I had a big box in my hand and boom, pulled my pants down. The garage was open, so the cars were just seeing some dude with his ass like that with a giant box, and he got me.
Coming up in a
That's
minute.
my ladder story.
Yeah, well, this is
You got
what
Big
happened.
Brother.
I'd rather
Got
be
Big
that
Brother.
than,
That's it, man.
than you, though.
I got Big Brother.
How many times have you been not a bouncer, sorry, a private security or a bodyguard?
I used to do it a lot when I was working LAPD, and I did, before.
Like celebs?
Bouncing.
In L.A.? Or?
I have no idea what you're talking about, man.
Okay.
You do your job, and they're just people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I used to do a lot.
Coming up.
I did everything I could to make extra money, man. I had mouths to feed, man. My kids ate a lot.
How many kids do you have altogether?
I have 3.
And how many grandkids?
3.
3, okay.
Sounds like an alternate
You should
version
write
of
a
Training
book
Day.
that has all this information in it.
Yeah, no, I think I've done that.
I can't remember. But it's funny how he says I have mouths to feed. He's like 6'4", 230 over here. I mean, you had that mouth to feed too.
I don't-
right?
you know,
Don't just blame it on the kids.
Man,
Stand
I'll
by.
tell you
You're
what,
a
it's
giant
funny
of a
'cause
man,
at
too.
one time, I could eat. I mean, I was just... And now, I don't eat very much. I eat like maybe twice a day.
We are making our
And it's
descent
small.
into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew,
That's
we'd
the
like
lie
to thank you
detector
for
there.
flying
It is.
MMA
You gotta look
Junkie
and see if
Airlines.
she's
Now
nodding,
please
then that's
fasten
true.
your
If she goes like this, like
your tray tables and your
that means it's 3 meals a day.
That
Be
means
a
I just came
little
from-
bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Go. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space,
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
we've solidified our combat communication stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology, MMA Junkie Radio, commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Race and Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes. Ari's co-host. To my left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Back east, handling all the producing duties, Danny Olkers. And sitting to my far right is Bellator MMA's color commentator and former, dare I say it, MMA referee, Big John McCarthy.
What's up, brother?
What's up? How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Not a former yet, right? Because you could still return someday. There was no official retirement, so you're just
No official retirement.
Bellator color commentator right now.
Bellator commentator.
You digging it?
I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Bellator treats me so well. The people are so great to work with. and I'm learning a lot, and I'm having fun in doing it. It's a lot of work for me right now, but it's something new, so I'm just having a blast with it.
If you were to return to MMA reffing, would this commentating gig, whether it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, would it have helped enhance your abilities as a ref? Are there things that you're seeing or learning about the game as a color commentator that you could apply to the ref? Or
No, it's just totally different. You know. As the commentator, you're there to try to hopefully educate people a little bit towards what's going on with the fight, give them an idea of why someone's being successful or what they're doing, what the other guy needs to do to stop what's occurring. It's completely different when you're refereeing. Refereeing, you're not watching the fight like the fan does or the commentator does. Mm-hmm. You're watching to see, is one guy starting to have a problem in this fight, or is one girl starting to have a problem in this fight? And if they're having that problem, that's the person you start watching completely. You kind of just almost start to focus off of the person that's doing the damage, and you're just focusing on the person being damaged because that's who you're responsible for. It can change, but most of the time it doesn't.
I have a question about broadcasting.
Yeah.
All right. You kind of have to dumb it down for people because there are people that are going to be tuning in for the first time.
That's pretty easy. I'm dumb anyway, see, so I'm just going at my own level.
Here's my question. I'm sure there are instances where you would much rather say, no, dummy, or no, stupid, that's not the way it is, but you can't do that.
No.
Did it take time to kind of get used to finding your cadence and how you would have to approach those things?
Man, there's so many things. First off, I cuss. It's just part of who I've been, growing up, and I'll say certain adjectives that, are colorful just because it's just part of my normal language. So I have a whole thing, that's up in front of me. Don't cuss. Because it's a problem. It's like
we're on Sirius XM, so you feel free
I'm
to unload.
Here,
but I've never
exactly.
really gotten that sense from you.
When I'm doing something, I try to stay away from it. But I just talk normally, and normally some things will come out. And
F word?
Oh yeah, it will. But the other part,
I got called stupid earlier.
Did you? By him? That's not bad. That's not cussing.
But I like it. I like that he does it because it keeps you on your toes.
The other part for me is, as a referee, you don't make a reaction to anything. And so, I get excited in fights, and someone will do something like, oh, Jesus, and and that's who I normally am. That's who I naturally am. And so now I'm doing that, and people are going, oh my God, you have, I didn't think you had any kind of personality or anything like that. And it's like, I'm doing a job, and now in this job, at least I get to get excited about the fights at times too, and that's fun.
Mm-hmm. And were you kind of hinting at, and I'm not sure if you were, if I missed it, at him almost like interjecting what he would have done if he was the ref? Is that what you were saying, Goose?
No, I'm just saying.
Because then that's my question.
Because he probably gets asked a lot of stupid questions, I would imagine, throughout his career.
Right.
So now he's got to go through that whole process brand new, fresh. Mm-hmm. And he's got to do it live in front of a lot of people. So I'm just wondering how difficult it is to just go, no, stupid, it's not like that.
Well, the one thing that happens in fights as a referee, you're watching it, and there's something is going on, and or at least you should know, this is what the person should do to stop what's occurring, okay? And you're waiting to see, and this is the one thing you don't want to do. And then they go and they do that one thing that you go, you don't want to do that. And as a referee, you just stand there like nothing's happening, and it's like, now as the commentator, I can go, all right, that's exactly what they shouldn't do, and this is what they should. At least I can put it out there, and it's kind of that's the whole difference. And I get to at least say, look, they want to do this. Don't put your hand over there. That's not where you want to put, because that's what's going to lead you to going down that path to failure. Mm-hmm. And so it's a different game, but I'm having a blast with it.
How are the refs treating it in terms of
all the refs are scared to death of what I'm going to say?
Yeah, Big Brother's watching. Do you have any interaction at all, like with them?
Yeah, you know what? In fact, not they'll all come up, but after the Mohegan Sun one, which was 194 for Bellator, what people don't realize is the three main refs that were there were Dan Murgalata, Kevin McDonald, and Keith Peterson, and they all had certain things that they did that night that were really good. Really good. When they stopped the fight, why they stopped it. Dan did a stoppage with, Liam McGarry when you had Vadim Nemkov was just blasting his leg and gets to the point where Liam gets hit and just turns and starts hopping away, and Dan comes in and stops it, and Liam falls down, but it was beautiful.
Okay, yeah, I
as
like
far
the
as
stoppage
what
too.
he did.
Yeah.
Same thing with Kevin McDonald. When Kevin McDonald made a stoppage in the Patricky Pitbull versus Derek Campos, he let that fight go exactly to that point where you say, you're not doing anything to finish, so I'm stopping it, and he didn't take any more punishment, and it was really a good job. So afterwards, I went in the back where the commissions, and I just had to say, I just want to commend all of you, man. You did a great job tonight. You took care of the fighters. You gave the fans what they paid for. Congratulations. Beautiful job. And I want to be able to do that because it's important that those guys, all they hear is the bad.
Yeah.
And you need to tell them, hey, man, you did a great job in that fight. And that happens all the time, but referees don't hear it.
It's funny because when you were talking earlier about keeping an eye on the person that needs your most attention, I got that from you about 2 years ago. You've moved here about 2 years now, right? Yeah, so it was one of those shows, and you went through in detail Carlos Condit and Robbie Lawler. And that conversation has changed my way. I'm watching the refs a lot now. Not that I'm not watching the fights, but I'm watching the refs. I'm watching your guys' mechanics.
Positioning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in that fight, I remember you told me, that your biggest concern when all this carnage was taking place was watching McDonald, and what was happening in that fight. And I watched that a lot. I watched
Dan's looking at you because you first started with Carlos Condit. And
Oh,
Robbie
so sorry.
Lawler. But
McDonald
you were right.
and Lawler.
It's exactly. It was
McDonald and Lawler was the one where a lot of your attention was paid to McDonald. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Condit and Lawler had a barn burn.
Oh, yeah. And
they had a barn burn.
You go
too,
with
but-
that last round in that. I'm watching Carlos almost the entire time. I'm not even looking at Robbie because Robbie's the one doing the damage. I'm looking at Carlos to make sure that if he needs to be taken out of this fight at this moment, I'm going to do it. But if I can let him go because he's trying to do the right things, I'm going to let him go.
Mm-hmm. Where do you rank commentating with reffing? I know it's only been a few shows, but how much of your love is there for commentating?
Well, right now with the commentating, it's so new for me as far as to do some of the things that they're asking of me. I feel awkward, and in reffing, near the end, I never felt awkward. I felt absolutely in control, understand exactly what I would do in any given situation. I felt completely confident, and I don't feel confident in the commentating to that point, not even close, but that's my goal, is to get to that point where I'm as confident in everything I do with that as I was in refereeing.
But you love it. You don't miss refereeing?
Of course I miss it.
Oh, you do?
That
Okay.
will never change. Everyone asks me, oh, do you miss it? Absolutely. I loved it. And I didn't leave because I didn't like it. I left because I'm getting older. Everyone looks at me and they think, oh, you can go on forever. It's no different. I went and I broke my wrist. And so, honestly, I would have been taken out of shows because I have a broken wrist. And
You would have?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like when I'm not working, well, then there's a problem. I'm not making any money, and I have a pension, and I make my, bills paid off of my pension from LAPD, but working fights is the way that I do make money, and so now I'm not working at all. And I went and I worked with a broken wrist for Bellator, no problems at all. And so it's a matter of, I realized, look, I am getting older, and I'm breaking now, and I'm having to change the way I'm going about life. And it wasn't that I love the reffing. Everyone's saying, I've heard so many things of, oh, are you mad at the UFC? Why would I be mad? I love the UFC. I love Bellator. I love the UFC. I loved ACB. I got to work with those promotions, and I considered myself so lucky to be able to do that. And, it's the one thing about kind of being where you're not working for that singular promotion. You get to go and work with all of these promotions, and that's one of the great things about athletic commissions or no athletic commissions outside in the international field is I get to go work with the UFC on one night and Bellator on another night. That's awesome, and I will always, be appreciative of everything that I was allowed to do with each of those promotions.
Did you feel any pressure in leaving MMA reffing that you were putting a dent into the talent level? Now, I think the talent level is as high as good good as I've seen it in a long time.
It is.
Everybody's clicking, and it seems like all of you are starting to call fights. You all have your special touch. You all have the I call it the leash, of how far you'll let a fight go.
Mm-hmm.
But like again, talking about the mechanics, the communication between all of you. So just when MMA reffing, I think, was reaching a point where we were all feeling really good, we lost the number one guy. So did you feel any pressure, like, damn, I'm leaving these guys, or anything like that?
Well, it was the whole thing of I felt not bad, but I felt like I was leaving people that were my friends. And that's the hard part is, I'm in a different position now. And so everything that I used to do and, getting to an arena and who I used to jaw jack with and, talk to and all the stuff, it changed, and I miss that. And I will always miss that because I try to tell everybody, you get all these people trying to become referees or judges. And you get a lot of people, one of the first things they'll ask me is, how much can I make in being a referee? And you just look at the thing and it's like, you idiot. And then I'll be nice about it. So look, you're not going to make money doing this. In fact, you're going to lose a lot of money doing this. In the beginning, let's take a look at Frank Trigg. Okay, Frank is a guy that, I've worked with for a long time. When he came out, because he was a friend, I didn't charge him for taking my course, but he had to spend the time. Time is money. Okay, and then I failed him. And then he takes it again, and I failed him again. Okay, and then I have him come out, and he comes out every week. He lives in Vegas. I am in LA at the time, and he comes out every week to spend time with me. And that time might have been 2 hours. It might have been 10 hours. Okay, depending upon what I had to do and stuff like that. But he was coming, and all that time that he spent. Then when he finally gets to the point where I say, yes, you passed, you're good. And I get him with Camo, which is the California amateur organization. Now he goes and he starts spending time working there. And if you want to say, how much money is he making? He's making $25 to $100, okay, for that night.
And he's flying in from Hawaii. Point,
absolutely.
Right?
He's flying in from Vegas. He's flying in from Hawaii when he's spending time in Hawaii. And he is spending money to try to learn his craft. Mm-hmm. And then he finally gets to a couple of years down the road, he gets with the California State Athletic Commission, and they license him as a MMA referee. And now he starts working those shows. But look at those shows that he's working. He's making $300, $350 a show, and he's flying in from Hawaii to do the show because he's doing Hawaii 5-0 stunt work, and stuff. And this is all costing him money. And he has spent all this money trying to get this position that in the end is not going to make him that much money either. And so you look and you say, what is it? Why would you want to be a referee? And I tell everyone, look, this is what I found out over time was, and we all find out, money is great and we all want to make money. But as you get older, you start to realize money is not the most important thing. It's what you do with your life, who you spend that time with, how you spend it, and the moments that you get to put up here that stay with you until that day that you click out. And I love the fact, and I still get to do it with boxing in certain places. When you're that referee and you go and I get to go to an arena, I get to go to here at the Mandalay Bay, or I get to go to T-Mobile Arena, and I walked into that arena without paying for a ticket. And I get to walk down to that cage, and I get to move myself over to the locker rooms, and I get to talk with fighters and trainers, and no one stops me. There's no one. I'll have a security guard. They'll look and they'll, and you just keep on going. And it's priceless. That's why you do the job, because you get those moments. When I got to go and work at Madison Square Garden, that was priceless to me. To me, that was a bucket list. I wanted to do a world title fight in Madison Square Garden. If I could do that, I could die the next day. I'm dying a happy guy. Mm-hmm. That's what you work for, to be as that official. You don't work towards the money, because the money's never going to be there.
So Trigg earned your respect through his hustle and his drive.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. The fact that, look at, he came into that with a name, okay? Now, there's a lot of people that don't like Frank Trigg, okay? They don't know him. They know a personality, and that personality from fighting, Frank realized, hey, I can be the bad guy. I'll be the bad guy. Frank's one of the greatest guys you can be around. He's funny. He's smart. Well, not that smart, but but he is a phenomenal human being. And the fact that he had no ego in it, didn't tell people he was, you get a lot of these referees, hey, watch me at such and such. And it's like, no one's fucking watching you. No one gives a shit about you. Okay? No one gave a shit about me. Watch the fights. You want to tweet out or put out, hey, watch the fights, on Access TV or on, UFC Fight Pass. Great, go ahead. I'm all for it. But to say, watch me, you're a dumbass. That's not why people do it, and that's not the way Frank has been. And that's what I've really loved about his attitude towards being the best official he can be.
I think that comes across, too, if I may say, whether it's just, you speaking, off air, just kind of you could see how the passion kind of exudes. Like you said, it's clearly, it's not that you're over it or or burnt out, which is amazing in its own, by the way. Or Frank Trigg, where these guys obviously have their own history with the show here. Mine's a little different through kind of the grappling and wrestling rooms, and was just surprised of what you spoke of when you actually get to know Trigg. And I was like, wow, this guy's got a real passion for the sport. He's teaching us no-name kids how to do a single leg, and he's super passionate about it. So when we talked about making the transition and refereeing, for me it was a no-brainer because I saw that passion that you're talking about. That's almost a prerequisite for your guys' job there. So
yeah, and it's a lot of guys. Chris Lieben is now, refereeing as a MMA referee, and he's in the amateurs and stuff. And he comes up and I see him in a thing that was just a little while ago, and he starts talking to me about refereeing. And I said, look, Chris, anything you need help with, you let me know. He goes, I'm calling you, right? And it's because he goes, it's completely different, and it is, and everyone has this idea that because you fought, you're going to be a great referee. No, that's just not true. You have to let go of a lot of the things that have made you who you are, and your ideas about what someone can get out of and how they're going to get out of that. It's a completely different world, and you're asking that fighter to step away from everything that they've learned in the past and now look at a fight in a different way. It's not easy.
So if the commission said, we're cleaning house today, getting rid of all the refs, we need to start a new program, what's the best mold? If they put you in charge, where would you go? Do you go to ex-fighters? Do you go to people who've trained but not fought? What's like a good profession, or where would you go?
If you're going to say, there's no profession that sets you up to be a good referee.
Well, hold on a second,
it's
John.
Personality.
In the NFL, you got attorneys, you got high school principals.
Yeah.
I mean, the others that.
So you're saying smart people?
Well, yeah. I mean, those are some. No, but what I'm saying is, up until a few years ago, I think they had their other jobs, and some of them are still grandfathered to retain. And now, going forward, you're a full-time referee. It's a career.
They're trying.
I think
but
your
that's not
authority
exactly
has
the same.
helped too from LAPD.
But that's a matter of understanding certain elements. It's a matter of understanding leadership. Mm-hmm. Okay, what's a leader? A leader's not a guy that says, follow me. That's not what a leader is. A leader is a person that does things by example and has other people go, I like the way he's doing that, and they start to follow that example. It's a matter of, to be in this sport, I get people all the time saying, I've watched everything. That's great. I'm glad you've watched everything. That's awesome. That means you're a super fan. That doesn't mean that you know what the hell you're looking at. And the first thing you've got to have for someone to be good as a referee is they have to know everything that the fighters are doing. If you don't understand every submission, how to put that submission on, how to break that submission down, how to defend and what the person should be doing, the fight is going to start to go very fast because you are now unsure and you start to actually have fear. And, to sit there and say, fear, your heart rate starts to go faster. And as your heart rate starts to go faster, this doesn't work as well. It gets to a certain point that this is overcoming this, and then you can lead to the mistakes. So the more that you know, the slower the fight goes. I was at a position, over my last 10 years or something, it was a matter of, hey, I know exactly what this is what he should be. He's trying. Okay, and he's not being successful. And so you'll see me start to come down towards it because he's being put in a submission that you're not doing the right things to defend that. I know that's going to end up where you, boom, and I stop it. And no one looks at it in any way as far as what I did. But if you break it down and you start to watch exactly what you'll see, look at how those two things coincide. There's elements of the grappling game that people don't understand. Okay, and when I say don't understand, John Danaher, I just listened to him on a Joe Rogan podcast, and he breaks things down. And he had Joe befuddled. It was hysterical because it's the first time I've ever listened to a Joe Rogan podcast where Joe wasn't talking at all. And John is saying, "So Joe, what's the next step?" And Joe's lost. And it's not that Joe doesn't know grappling. He does. It's just like, well, hell, I don't know what to say that's going to be right.
Yeah.
And that's the way that a referee is supposed to look at. Just like John Danaher is breaking down what is grappling. Okay, why is it that we want to take the fight to the ground? You ask people, why do you want to take the fight to the ground? The first word that's going to come out of their mouths is control. No, it's not. We take a fight to the ground. A fighter in MMA takes a fight to the ground usually to keep themselves from being damaged by someone that has this ability on their feet to blast the hell out of them with this force of kinetic energy that they can muster. I'm going to take him down there so he can't hurt me. Why has Ben Askren been so successful and is undefeated in his career even though it hasn't been in the UFC? He's a great wrestler that takes the fight away from that standing fighter and puts him in a position he can't be hurt. When you can't be hurt, you're in a good position in the fight. And that's the way I need a referee to look at the fight, because when you do that, everything's slow and you can make a good decision. But if you have situations in the fight that start to get to the point you go, I don't know what's going on, I don't know what he's putting him in, is that what, and you start to guess, we're going to make mistakes.
The submission part's very scary, but I'm gaining a much more appreciation for the intricacies you speak of, because even like standing on the footwork, I'm trying to study a fighter and say, okay, well, what's flashy footwork versus effective footwork, things I'm trying to decipher in my own job. But in that process of watching footwork, I'm going, hey, that ref's got pretty good reads on footwork too, because he knows where, and you can tell which one, like, oh, he can read the flow of the action, he's on the right stance of an open stance matchup, he's hitting his check marks, and it just makes me the little subtleties that I don't expect people would pick up, but it's really a lot that you guys are having to process every move, every step you take in there.
You're processing the whole time. If you're not, we don't watch the fight. We work within the fight, and you've got to work off of the movement of the fighters, what they're doing, what they're being successful with. Sometimes we have open sides, but I have someone that's in a position where I can't get to that, so I'm going to put myself in a position. I'm standing back. Why are you standing back there? This is why. And as long as you can explain it and it makes sense, great. We'll get guys that stand across the cage, and that's when you see all of a sudden they're sprinting across. There's reasons why we have mechanics. And those mechanics will help keep you consistent and keep you from making that major mistake. But you'll see guys all the time that will let those mechanics go to the side because it's like, it's just another fight. There is no just another fight. If you look at it that way, leave. I tell guys all the time, look, I've done the biggest fights there ever were. Okay, now, has there been other referees who say, well, I've done the biggest fights? Yeah, there are. But you can't, I have people all the time, well, what's the best fight you've ever done? I can't tell you. But what's a bigger fight? Is Chuck Liddell versus Randy Couture less than Conor McGregor versus Eddie Alvarez? No, they're both championship fights. Okay? Those fights are important, and they're important to people. But when you have a fight that's in a small show, or is the preliminary fight, the very first fight in the UFC or Bellator, and you have that fight to those fighters at that time is the most important fight of their life. And you need to treat it as such and understand the importance of that fight to those two fighters. And if you're not looking at it that way, you're fucked up. I don't give a shit if you're doing the main event. Right now, this is the most important fight.
So true.
Treat it that way.
Everybody's fight. It's their Super Bowl.
I saw a guy ref an amateur fight of mine years ago, and small talking behind the scenes of the show, just talking to him and didn't recognize me, nor should he. But it's just one of those things. You guys don't realize that. You're right. It's a big deal to these guys. You're an imprint in everybody's head. You get in there with.
Yeah, I get people all the time. I've never refereed them, and I'll come up and I'll shake their hand and say their name. And they go, "You know who I am?" Absolutely, I know who you are. And why do it's like it's my job to know who you are. Okay? You're important. And this, between us right now, I want you to understand, I feel honored to be able to do your fight. Yes, you're a pro debut fighter. I'm honored to be able to be the guy that is in here in your pro debut. Thank you for, being here and giving me the chance to do what I love to do. It's the way to look at it, but not everyone does.
We got to take a commercial. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. When we come back, we'll take some calls, 866-522-2846. John will be calling the fights this weekend, March 2nd.
No, I won't.
You won't be.
I will not.
What happened?
Nothing happened. I had for a year. I have a friend who I was working with at LAPD. He's retiring. And a year ago, I told him that I would be the MC at his retirement dinner and be there for him. And it's on the day of the Bellator show. And I had told Bellator.
Calling in sick already, man.
That's it, man. Calling in sick. I'm a bad person.
All right. Well, either way, there's a Bellator 195 card that we can promote with the title fight of Darian Caldwell versus Leandro Higo. Yeah, two great fighters. A great champion in Darian Caldwell there for the bantamweight title. The baddest man on the planet. Remember him? We had him on the week about a week ago. Joe Warren. He's going to be on that fight card as well. So lots to talk about when we come back, so stay close.
more
Let's see.
hardcore than
Up,
this. Though.
down, down, left, right. BA, start. You told me that code would get rid of them. Yeah, well, they're still here. Okay, but now they know I tried to kill them. Hold on, Mom. Here are George and Goes.
The Jim Rome Show is now on SiriusXM weekdays at noon Eastern. Catch The Jungle and the rest of the CBS Sports Network on Channel 201 and the SiriusXM app. That same SiriusXM app houses the MMA Junkie Radio Show commercial-free and in HD quality. Big John McCarthy here in the house with us. All right, we are going to take some calls. Gage from Fort Myers, Florida. Oriole from Alberta, Canada. Just chill for a second. Stand in that on-deck circle as we talk a little bit about a recent controversy that we had in mixed martial arts just last week in Orlando. Ultimate Fighting Championship headed down to Orlando. And a good friend of yours, Dan Mergliata, was the referee. Jeremy, so I take it you saw it,
I saw it.
Jeremy Stevens and Josh Emmett were fighting, and so lots to tackle here. How do you want to take this? I mean,
Well, we talked about it before the show,
Right.
And we're still even learning things. Dan, you were there.
Really?
Yeah,
That you're learning things now.
He showed us a couple things that for people who couldn't tell whether or not the knee.
You can't
hit,
put it up there?
Here's the question.
No.
George, did the knee touch him on the way out?
I thought it grazed him on the way up.
You thought.
Yeah.
Did it graze him or did it not?
Yes.
It did.
Yeah.
Okay. So if
I
you're-
saw a change in the trajectory of the head and the knee.
Okay. Now,
right.
my question is, can you see that in real time?
Well,
tough.
in real time, I remember going, "That's illegal."
Okay.
All right.
Just the action itself tells you that's illegal.
Right.
But you got to say the action and did it touch him are the two questions that, as the referee, you've got to put together.
Right.
Dan knows that the action is illegal.
Mm-hmm.
His question is, dude, did that touch him? I'm not sure. That's where I'm going to go with. I'm not sure it touched him. And if I'm not sure, I don't want to stop this action because I can't say that it did touch him.
Mm-hmm.
And he let the action go. There's
What about the knee on the way back? Can you clarify that one?
Yeah, okay, I'm going to take you back to a different fight. Yoel Romero fights Chris Weidman. Comes in with a flying knee. Boom! Hits Chris. Chris implodes upon himself going down. And Yoel comes down on top of him, and his knee actually hits him to the back of the head coming down. How can he control that? He can't. There's going to be a rechamber. When that knee comes up, it's coming back. And we can't go off of it coming back. Does it hit him when it's being brought forward as a tool to end this fight? That's the question. And I went and I showed George and Dan. It absolutely hits him. Absolutely. And it's not, I'm guessing, it's not, I think it does. I have the tape that they're showing shows. You can see Josh Emmett's ear when that knee comes up and goes, you watch his right ear, it flaps forward and back because there is kinetic energy that touches him, has a trauma to it, makes his ear flop down. If I take my head and I drop it down, my ears don't flop.
I have the biggest ears, so I will demonstrate this.
Yeah.
Don't move.
Don't move. But when you get that kinetic energy that touches that head, you're going to have that vibration that goes through and that ear starts to move down. That tells you right there. Dominic Cruz and Mike Bisping sitting up there. I don't think it touched him. You're wrong. It touched him. The question is, did it hurt him? No. I don't believe that's what hurt him. What hurt him was a beautiful left hook, then a couple of elbows.
Beautiful.
It was a nicely touched. Yeah,
He reached out.
hit him right where he wants to.
It was efficient for sure.
And put him where?
It was efficient, but it's not like a boxing beautiful Julio Cesar Chavez.
No. But it coming off of what you had, it puts him down.
Yeah.
People are going to talk about the elbows. The elbow strikes are legal. Does the last one hit him to the back of the head? Absolutely, it does. But what is happening is you have a fighter coming with an elbow here, and I have a fighter moving. You can't stop what's already being thrown.
That's what I felt about the first one, but the second one looked like he knows where he's heading now.
No, because he's trying. And Jeremy Stevens has been in the UFC for God knows how many years now. I did his very first fight in the UFC. He's as clean a fighter. He's a dangerous fighter, but he's not a dirty fighter. The question is, how do we get a fighter so confused over rules that they don't know what the hell they can do or when they can do it? That's our problem.
Yeah.
And that has been created by athletic commissions. We have a bunch of athletic commissions out there that have screwed things up because I don't like this rule. I want to be different. And you being different has screwed over every fighter there is. Congratulations. You're the ones that create this problem.
What's the quick fix and the best fix to that?
I don't think there is a quick fix. The quick fix is for one organization to say, when we come up with rules, you guys don't have a choice
Right.
in what you follow.
Or we don't go to that state, right?
Well,
That's to me the quick fix, but it's not the best fix.
That's a promotional. If Bellator doesn't think that an athletic commission or the UFC doesn't think an athletic commission fits within what they want to have for their promotion, they don't have to go to that state, but we're talking about economics. Okay, there's reasons why the UFC or Bellator wants to go to a specific state. And it's, look at, there's a population here. This fighter is from this area. This is going to sell tickets. We're going to go there. And they don't even look at what is the rules of that state athletic commission because all they're looking at is we're MMA. And we do the same rules. And now you have, UFC, broadcast put out, we are under the new unified, we are under the old unified. All fighters
And
have
in
been notified.
Brazil, they had a hybrid of rules once.
It's freaking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's ridiculous that we have a professional sport that has fighters fighting at this level that they have to put up with that crap.
Yeah, it'd be like in the pros, you have to land with 2 feet in, and in college it's only 1 foot, and
Yep.
then they say, "Oh, for this NFL game, you can land with 1
1
foot."
foot.
It'd be dumb. I
It's
agree.
horrible, and it's you look at why is it happening? Is it happening because we're concerned about fighter safety? What a joke. Okay, because the truth is the new rules that came out, it's safer. Josh Emmett in that position. What is it? Let's clear this up. What's a down fighter?
Where?
Come on.
Where?
What do you mean where?
Well, for sure, his knee was down. His knee was
What is
down.
a down
Yeah.
fighter? There is no where.
If both knees are down.
If both knees are down. What if
Oh,
one?
no, one knee.
Sorry,
Now it's one knee.
Yeah.
This is fucking nuts that we have people that don't know. It's nuts that we have people like you that have followed this sport for as long as you have, are as passionate as you are, and there is, it's one knee. Oh, no, it's two knees. Oh, what about the hands? This is crazy.
We can't even react live. We
Yeah.
have to sit there and go, wait a minute.
And
where
that's
are we
the
at?
problem.
Yeah.
And
Well, I knew he was down because Josh's knee was down.
Both of them are down.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it was under old rules or new rules. Josh was a grounded fighter. Okay? It used to be that we would say, look, at anything more than the soles of your
the feet.
feet
Right.
makes you a grounded fighter. So
Yeah.
fighters went and did this. They put
Yep.
that one fingertip to the ground, and they created a problem in the fight based upon this. Because
Right.
their finger come up and down, and it just made a mess. And we had promotions saying, this is screwing things up. We went and said, all right, look,
Palms.
we're going to take and we're going to put both. And the reason we said anything with hands was we didn't want a fighter that was kicked. Stephen Thompson versus Tyrone Woodley. You'll see the fighter gets kicked, and it was Tyrone Woodley doing the kick. Stephen Thompson, boom, both hands go down. He's on his hands and feet, and he's trying to pop himself up. We didn't want Tyrone to be able to come in with a kick to the face or a knee at that time when the fighter's in that vulnerable position because they've been put there instantly.
You want the hands to help them defend themselves.
We want the hands to defend. So the whole point of saying this whole thing, this is what is a grounded fighter. Any part of your body that is touching the ground other than your hands or feet absolutely makes you a grounded fighter. So if I have one elbow touch the ground, I'm a grounded fighter. If I have my forearm on the ground, I'm a grounded fighter. If I have my knee on the ground, I'm a grounded fighter. If I'm on my butt with my feet and hands in the air, I'm a grounded fighter. I cannot be kneed or kicked to the face. But if you are in the standing position with your feet on the ground, okay, you would have to put both hands, palms down, and this is what I would tell fighters in the back. Palms down, and so get in that position, and when you feel that pressure of, this is not comfortable, it's telling you don't ever fucking do that. If you need to in some way get yourself in a position where I've got to go down, I want you to drop a knee to the ground, and I want these up to protect this. Do we understand each other? If you start to put both of these to the ground in a horseshoe-shaped position, I'm going to start to think you're fucked up. You're not thinking right, and I'm going to think about getting you out of this fight. Do you understand me? Every fighter, no problem, I got it. I did Chris Weidman after he had the problem with Mousasi. He's going to fight Kevin Gastelum. I said, let's talk about this. And afterwards he goes, why didn't someone explain it to me like this before? I can't answer that, but that's part of the problem that we have in MMA is I have each athletic commission doing training separately. What these officials are getting, I can't say all the time unless I'm the one doing the training. And it's led to there's differences wherever we go, and that's not what is best for MMA.
Dan's instructions to Jeremy. Now, you weren't there.
Nope.
I don't know if you've
Can't
chatted
even
since
talk
then.
about it. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what he said. I can only go
Have you
off of what
ever
Jeremy said.
overseen what all the other refs are doing? Are they
I
as
have.
explicit as you?
No.
I see.
Telling you straight out, no.
So there's actually a chance Jeremy may have gotten those rules interpreted, or
Every referee I've ever
because I hear Jeremy say that, John, and I'm like, come on, man. I would think that any ref that goes back there is not telling you that as long as you have your hands down, you're a downed opponent. I would think, especially a guy that I think Dan's a great referee.
He is.
So I would think that he'd go back there and give explicit
and I
instructions
can
like
tell you,
that.
I've never listened to Dan and what he says, so I can't say if Jeremy's saying is right or wrong. I
Right.
don't know. I have listened to.
And I agree with you when you said earlier that I've never known him to be a dirty fighter either.
Never. No, Jeremy's a great fighter, clean fighter. He's absolutely, in his mind, at some point with what he was saying, he thought, oh, I can do this. That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Can we go back to one real quick?
We go back to anything you
So,
want.
The two elbows that he's talking about, I think we all kind of know which ones they are.
Yep.
The one before wasn't as bad as the second one. The second one looked like it just hit him directly in the back of the
It does
head.
hit him to the back of the head. I'm not. Look,
So how-
I'm not saying it doesn't hit him there.
Yeah.
It does. But what I want you to watch is we can't. He goes after him and he hits him with a couple of left elbows, and they're perfectly placed, same as what Josh had hit Jeremy with in the first round. They're right to the side of the ear, right to this, just behind the ear. They're absolutely legal. And Josh starts to move. And as Josh starts to move, he lands one more, and it's not illegal, but it's getting close. And then he goes for one more, and as Josh is moving, it goes and it hits to the back of his head. And I can't say that if Dan was telling him, watch the back of the head or anything, but that's what we would say, which is our warning to you. And you see him stop that attack. He stops it, which for us as a referee, I'm going to say, you're trying to fight clean here. That was based upon bodies in motion. You went for that last one. It's bad. I'm telling you, watch the back of it. And he's going into something else. That's part of fighting. And, it's not a targeted, direct, I've got a stationary head and I go, boom, to the back of the head. Mm-hmm. That's now on me. When he's going and then Josh is starting to move, you have to understand fighters, their brains are working and they're going after things, but it doesn't work like, oh, I see he's moving, I'm going to just stop it. Once he's told himself, I'm throwing this, it's going, and as that movement happens, you can get it to where the placement is to what is an illegal area. Mm-hmm. And that last one was, but he comes out of it, and so you go, all right.
So stopping at that point, Dan's in the right.
Yep.
Okay. Now we get to the knee.
Okay.
And applying that same logic, do you feel like he is intending
they're different.
bad intentions on the elbow?
No.
On the knee, how else could you interpret it other than he was down and he still threw it?
And this is your question. Does he intentionally throw that knee? Absolutely. Okay, he intentionally, because he sets it up, he actually puts his hand on the back of the head and neck as he goes to throw it. That is an intentional act to try to use a knee as a striking instrument against this fighter. The problem is that fighter is in a position at this time that strike would be illegal. And so the question you got, with everyone out of there was, but did it hit him? And that's the problem for Dan. Mm-hmm. Dan is in this position. He's mechanically, he's in the perfect placement. You can't say, oh, he was out of position. He's exactly where he should be. The only difference is the knee's thrown on what side.
Opposite side.
The
of it.
opposite side.
Opposite side of where he's at.
On Josh's left.
And
yeah.
it's thrown not directly to the center of Josh's head. It comes up off of that far side.
Mm-hmm.
And you're asking Dan to analyze and say, yes, that touched him. No, it didn't. Right now. At real speed. And how many people have you listened to watching replays over and over and over, and they still can't agree, did it hit him, did it not?
Right.
All right. The broadcasters are split. Media's
Exactly.
split. Fans are split.
So you got them split. Dan made a decision. I'm not sure I don't think that hit him. I'm not sure that hit him. And I'm not going to interfere with this possible fight-ending sequence because I don't know.
And that's
Okay,
that's kind of
one way of looking at it. You can look and say that's the way to do it, or you can look and say I'm going to be the referee that plays to the side of, well, I'm going to play safe, okay? And that's okay. So now we have a referee that comes in and goes, stop, time, right? Takes Jeremy, puts him to this side, gets Josh. Josh gets up, he wiggles over, and then he watches the replay kind of on the big screen because they're all going to do it, even though there's no instant replay in Florida. And now here's another problem.
Oh.
Now he looks at the instant replay and goes, oh, shit, it didn't hit him. So now what did the referee do now?
He interrupted the fight.
He interrupted a possible fight-ending sequence and took Jeremy Stevens out of a position to win this fight. How would people be looking at it now?
Yeah.
Oh, everyone would be pissed. There's no perfect for the referee. In some instances, they've got to make a decision. And either way they go, there's going to be people that are upset with what they did. You know, but if you're going to look at it in an honest fashion and go, man, that is so fast and that is so hard, I can understand why you said, I'm just going to let this play out. Because you are not sure, and when we are not sure, we're normally not going to make the call. We may tell him, no knees to the head of a grounded opponent. You're verbalizing, but you're not stopping the action. But if everything plays out, and look at, there's times, I was talking with Goes, and John Jones comes out against Vitor Belfort. This is one of the reasons John was mad at me. He comes out doing his spider slide with his stupid one hand on the ground, because back then it was one hand, and he comes sliding out, and Vitor launches a left kick over his head. If you watch the tape, and I was watching right when, as soon as that kick is being launched, you see John's hand doing this. And by the time the kick is right at his head, here's where his hand's at. So where's John? He's on 2 feet. Is he a legal fighter to kick to the head?
Yeah.
Yes, because where's your frickin' hand? Up here. Congratulations. And you'll hear me tell him, you want to play the game, that's what you're going to get, because his instincts are going to tell him, oh, I need to protect. I'm going to bring that hand up. And people looking at it say, oh, you tried to kick him in the head. Why didn't you take a point? You can't take a point off of what was thrown that's illegal but doesn't touch somebody. If I'm standing here with this fence, is it holding the fence? You going to take a point from me? I have no fighter near me. You going to take a point? Really? But that's what you get people say, oh, you know what? You should take a point. And if we did what, the fans start to get into, we would be putting ourselves into every fight. And there's going to be fights where people are going to be really upset. Joe Rogan says, if there's an eye poke, it's automatic point. If there's a groin, automatic point deduction. You wouldn't be happy with the results. You've got to make decisions based upon common sense. Is that foul?
Got a break.
Doing something that is making a difference.
We got to exit here for our second break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, Rush 93. We'll be right back.
charm, compassion, common sense. These guys have none of that. You listen to them, so you're no better. I am awesome, though. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Start your day with SiriusXM. Enable the SiriusXM skill on your Amazon device, and then tell Alexa to set an alarm for your favorite channel, and you'll wake up to the sounds of SiriusXM. With SiriusXM and Alexa, you can get the latest sports news each morning without picking up your phone or turning on the TV. All right, we're not even going to bother with the calls at this moment, but we'll start. I swear to you, we'll start in about 3 minutes with phone calls. So get in at 866-522-2846. We got Big John McCarthy over here making us feel dumber than ever, but only for a moment, because then the education sets in and we all raise our levels, right?
There you go.
Of the appreciation for everything that happens in these cages, in these rings, man. It's awesome. We're talking a little bit about UFC Orlando. We definitely plan on talking a little bit about Bellator, and of course John's career. We covered that a little bit earlier. He's now the color commentator for Bellator MMA. Something on your mind, Goes? Looks like you're itching to say something.
He looks great, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to pipe in. It looked like you wanted to say something.
No, I was just moving.
Oh, all right. All right, folks. Follow him on Twitter at John McCarthy MMA. Follow the show at MMA Junkie Radio. I'm at MMA Junkie George. Goes is at the Goes, and Dan Tom is at. I haven't done yours in a while. Hold on, I got it. Dan Tom MMA. Are there underscores in there?
No.
No. Got it
I
right.
got it. Yeah,
Underscores
yeah.
are the
And
tool
that
of the devil.
fool producer back east, Danny Otto. He's Danny Otto. Nah, he's great. He's not a fool. All right, we'll be right back, folks. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. Let's take some calls. We got Big John McCarthy here co-hosting this episode with us. Gage in Fort Myers, Florida. What's up, Gage? How you doing?
What's going on, guys? How you doing today?
Good, man.
How are you?
Doing great, actually. It's nice and hot down here. First of all, I want to talk about two things. Jeremy Stevens, get away from all the controversy. He had an amazing showing, I think. He looked fantastic out there. I know he wants a title shot, but what do you guys think about him fighting Jose Aldo in time? Because I got Frankie and Ortega right now. What about him and Aldo?
Ooh.
Well, that's a great fight because they both prefer to stand. So I'm into that fight, but another fight I brought up yesterday was Darren Elkins, who's 6-0 in his last 6 fights. So, he's on a nice run, on a nice streak. And it keeps Alpha Male versus Alliance alive, which if that has some...
Look at you promoter, you.
Yeah, if it has something to it, then, hey, let's jump on it. But, yeah, if Aldo's going to make some sort of a return, he's got to start fighting fighters way below the ranks that he used to. Before it was always like fighting number 1, number 2, or whatever, but he may have to go a little bit lower because he has 2 losses to the incumbent, Max Holloway. I'd be open, to answer your question, I'd be open to that fight, though, if they booked him versus Aldo.
I like that personally. I'm seeing a lot of the Elkins. It makes sense rankings and everything, but a lot of people bring up as well that they
It's
did
also a
fight.
rematch,
They
yeah.
did fight. It was maybe 2014, 2013. Stevens got a unanimous decision victory. But I do like the Aldo matchup because it's the quote unquote sexier matchup, and I think if you're not going to give a guy like Stevens a title shot that he was begging for, a good way to repay these company guys is give them like these really enticing matchups where they can, put on a fight, maybe get a bonus, get a nice profile spot, and whatever benefits come along with it.
Can you convince Aldo to take Stevens? Who knows?
That's the thing.
That's
I'm
a
good
tough
with him
one.
headlining again. I think he's been fun.
Yeah. All right, Gage, you waited a while. Anything else, or we got to bounce you?
I got one more thing. I noticed that Dana White put something on his Instagram yesterday with Brock Lesnar with a UFC shirt on. And I know John Jones has his hearing today in California. If he passes, what do you think about John Jones and Brock?
Brock still has 6 months to... Well, let's just say he waits the 6 months. So he has to get back in that testing pool. Then he has to write out a 6-month suspension. And then you're saying, let's say John comes out of it as best scenario as possible. Later this year, would we entertain it? I suppose so, but... I mean, if Jones does come out of this pretty clean,
That ain't going to happen.
I'd rather see him in big light heavyweight title fights, especially because I don't know how much longer DC's going to be doing it. I really want to see him and Gustafsson running back. Thanks, Gage, for the call. John, you know something we don't?
No, I don't know anything. I just know the reality.
Yeah.
And, because I love John Jones. I think he's unbelievable. You can ask my wife over there. I say that he's the greatest MMA fighter I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. But this is where the problem comes for. I personally, and then it's just my personal opinion, I don't personally believe that John took some type of steroid before fighting Dan Cormier. I don't believe that he purposely took a needle, went and stuck it. But John is responsible as a professional athlete under contract with the UFC. He's responsible for everything he puts in his body. And I believe that John is taking or allowing things to enter his body that are not known or not tested or doing things. And because some other trace element is in there that makes you pop, you're responsible for it. And that's the way I believe a commission's going to look at it. I could be wrong, but when he took like the lie detector test, I believe that John didn't knowingly take a pill or take a shot injection for that steroid. But I do believe that, he's taking things or allowing himself to ingest things for whatever reasons that sometimes contain these things because he's taking them from places that there is no quality assurance. And that's part of what those things are.
And he's been known to just make dumb mistakes in his life.
That's the problem. If I'm a fan and I only make a certain amount of money and I have a certain amount of money for vacations and for these type of things, I'm not going to trust it on a John Jones card because I don't know if he's going to show up.
For what it's worth, guys,
hard.
The hearing is going on right now, and it's still in process. But from the tweets I'm gathering, Jones's lawyers making their case for contaminated use and accidental indigestion, and according to the tweets, it's not going very well the way they're presenting their argument. It's not going well right now.
Accidental, by saying it's accidental, I personally believe John did not purposely take something. But when you're an athlete making the amount of money that John is making,
Yep, he's got
You
resources.
can't go to the AM/PM and buy something that is in pill form there and put that in your mouth without going, what the fuck are you doing? Come on, dude. You are a freaking Ferrari. You can't do those things. You have got to be smart. And I just don't see them, letting him off with, oh, it was just a mistake in what he put in, because he's had that mistake before.
All right, let's take this next call. Muna from San Francisco. What's up, Muna?
Hey, good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning. Just want to start off, Big John, you are an MMA national treasure. It's always great to have you in studio because, well, it's true. I mean, you've been around since, second UFC, and so just coming in studio and educating us. And the way you do it, too, you're able to at least, break it down where, if you're a hardcore fan or if you just started in the sport, it's easy to understand what you're talking about in terms of how you describe it, how you use examples, and it's great. And I love when you're in studio, so definitely try to get in studio more.
Thank you, I will. They won't have me, but
cool.
Okay.
And here's my question. This is something that Ben Folks from MMA Junkie and Chad Dundas from Bleach Report, they bring up a lot where, based on risk versus rewards, if you're a fighter, you're better off intentionally, and again, I don't advocate this, but you're better off intentionally trying to break the rules just for the fact that it's so rarely called, whether you're grabbing the fence, poking the eyes. And so I just wanted to see your comments on that, where I know you don't advocate cheating, but based on how MMA is being called, especially by inexperienced referees, it seems like guys get away with it more often than not, and folks aren't penalized to dissuade folks from doing it. And then lastly, if you can give your comments on the UFC fight card where Valentina bludgeoned that girl and the referee didn't stop it when it should have been stopped. So anyways, thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Take off here.
You got all that?
Do I have to answer all that? All right, here's your first thing. Ben and then great reporters, great guys, but look at they're wanting to sensationalize something. Here's the point of what referees are looking for as far as fouls. If you go into this, we're going to do things black and white. We're going to you grab the fence in any fashion, we're going to take a point from you. You do we're going to take a point from you. As I was saying earlier, the fans would not be happy with that referee. Mm-hmm. They would get pissed because you're going to have someone who absolutely wins a fight easily and loses the fight on the cards based upon a referee saying that a guy standing here doing this for half a millimeter of a second, that's worth a point. A point in MMA is not, I want you to take a look at the NFL, okay? There's these yellow little hankies that go up in the air, okay, the flag. And referees or officials.
It's like the stupidest thing ever, too, man. I don't know why they do it.
Well,
the official. I thought you meant the Pittsburgh Steelers fans.
Oh, no. I'm talking about they're throwing those little yellow flags up in the air throughout the game. Mm-hmm. But each time they throw it, there's not the same consequence. Okay, there's times when they throw it and they move the ball based upon where it is on the field. They move it 5 yards. It could be that same penalty if it's near the goal line moves the ball 6 inches. Mm-hmm. Okay, it could be that they throw that flag up in the air and it moves the ball 85 yards. Mm-hmm. Okay, so each time they throw it, there's a different consequence based upon that foul. Well, that's the same thing that we try to do to a point in MMA because not all fouls are the same and they don't all have a consequence in the fight. And if a breach of the rules, a guy goes and I start to get taken down and my hand does this and you see my finger catch that as and I end up on the ground anyways. I ended up where the hell I was going to be put. This didn't stop it. Yes, the finger did hook, but the referee's going to say, don't grab the fence, and he's going to let it go on. And in the black and white world, we now have a stop. There's a point deduction, and we put him down, and you go, you've just altered this fight greatly with something that really didn't alter it at all.
Right.
And you've got to have common sense in it. I'm going to go back, and Bellator 194, we had an eye poke incident. Okay, and most times people are like, well, you get poked in the eye. Every eye poke is different. Okay, we get eye pokes based upon what someone is doing. You had the incident, it was in Australia, I think, in Perth, where you have the fighter trying to get out of a guillotine choke.
Was it Jake Matthews and
Yeah.
Jingling or whatever?
Jingling. There you go, exactly. And you look at that, and look at that. That's not just an eye gouge. Okay, that is an absolute attempt to gouge someone to get himself out. Now, I'm not saying that he's purposely trying to gouge the eyes, but where his fingers go, and look at the referee at that time, you can't slap the hands. You have to pull the hands up and away from the eyes, okay? If you're going to say, I'm going to try to let Jake finish this fight, and you're going to let Jake try to finish the fight the way that's the best for him to finish it with a submission hold, I'm going to try to let that play out. And I'm going to pull at Jing's hands away from it. It's going to cause him more problems in the hold. If that affects the hold in a bad way for him, I don't care. But I'm going to let Jake try to finish this fight in that fashion. But if he can't get him out in that fashion and his head pops out, stop. Time. And I'm going to pull him up. I have a fighter that, his eyes are the most important thing right now. I don't care about position. I'm going to do things, and I'm going to take care of Jake. I may let the fight go on if Jake wants to get himself back into the fight with Jing at this point, and he can see, I'll let him get it, and I'm going to take 2 points for what he did, and I'll put the fight back. Or it might end up as a DQ, okay, because that type of eye poke is different. But you had an eye poke in Bellator 194. People looked at it, and they go, oh, it's not going to be anything. And I said, don't say that. And Dan Merglot takes a point. And the reason he takes a point is he looks at it, after looking at the eye, he sees that this fighter is now diminished based upon that foul. And being diminished, I need to level this out. And so I'm going to take a point to try to level this back out based upon you diminished him with what wasn't intentional, but it's illegal. And that's what you need referees to do. Make good decisions based upon the circumstances that you have. Mm-hmm. You can't get into this black and white world. You get into the black and white world, it doesn't work. So it's a matter of, with everything that's occurring, you've got to have the ability to make choices. Is everyone going to be happy with those choices? No. Everybody that wants Josh Emmett thinks he got screwed. Everybody that wanted Jeremy Stephens thinks that was a great job. That's just the way it is in fighting. And if it had gone the other way, everyone that wanted Josh Emmett would say that Dan Merglot is the greatest referee ever. And everyone that wanted Jeremy Stephens said Dan Merglot sucks. You can't make them all happy. You just have to try to do what is right for the fighters at that time in the fight. The whole thing with Valentina, I was talking with Dan about this. The difference with what we look at as a referee, and what I'm saying, I need the referee to understand everything the fighters are doing. Okay, when I say everything they're doing, that means they have to know when a person is in side control on me in this position. Because the way I would have looked at it, I would have let that fight go throughout the first round, absolutely. Okay, everything that she's doing. Priscilla is the
Priscilla Cachoeira.
Cachoeira. So Priscilla has got Valentina in guard. On her back, what's the better position she can have her? There is none. Okay? So having her in between her legs in guard is the best defensive position that Priscilla can have against Valentina's position. And if you look at it, Valentina's landing good elbows at times, but she's landing ones. She's wham, she'll hit her with a good elbow. Mm-hmm. Okay, but she's being very smooth and efficient with what she's doing. She's not trying to burn through energy, but she's trying to damage her, but it's a slow process. And Priscilla does the best job she can do. She gets hit with an elbow that cuts her. Okay, a cut is not a big deal. It's how much did the blow rattle her brain? That's what I want to know. So they get through the first round. But as the referee, I always look at fights, and all fights are different when we talk about how far are we going to let this go. People sit there and say, you referee all fights the same. That's a fucking lie. You can't, okay? There are those ones, I've got to let this thing. This is a championship fight of such proportions. I got to let this thing go to that very last bit that I can without causing this fighter undue damage. And you look at this one and you go, this is an important fight for Valentina, because she is, that number one in bantamweight, and this is at flyweight. And it's an important fight for Priscilla, but it's her debut fight in the UFC. And you look at her record and you go, I look at, and I would have looked at everybody she fought and I go, yeah, it's a bunch of Brazilian fighters down here. This is not on
it was padded, yeah.
Valentina's level. So now that I get to the second round, I'm looking to say, okay, let's see how she comes out. Okay, and as she comes out, is she going to start to throw in an effective fashion to stand with Valentina? Because obviously I've already seen she's got problems on the ground with her. So she comes out, and the same thing happens. Valentina starts to counter, hits her, but then goes and does an inside trip to take her down, but ends up in side control. And as she ends up in side control, now as the referee, I'm starting to go, you better show me that you can start to work your way out of this. I'm not going to sit there and just let you take a consistent beating in this position with you showing that, you're ineffective. So she starts the thing, and now Valentina is opening up not with ones. She's going with 2s and 3s, and she's starting to really go after her from this position, puts her into a crucifix, and when she puts her in the crucifix, starts to open up, and you can see the referee, Mario tells her, move, and she's trying to move, and she finally gets her way through it. And when it comes back to the second position of the crucifix, what you want to do as a referee is look and say, what is the fighter doing underneath to get themselves to a better position? Nothing. She's not doing anything. She's not sticking her elbow in the right place. Her arms are getting exposed, being pushed out from Valentina. Right there, you're getting yourself to a position you can't defend yourself. Everything that is occurring is one fighter showing a dominance in this position over the other fighter. And when her feet are starting to go up in the air and her hips are off the ground, as the referee, you're looking at going, Jesus Christ. You're now starting to look like a kid on the schoolyard who's being dominated by someone that has skill. And
getting the typewriter on his chest.
Yep, and you're showing that you have no knowledge of how to get yourself out of this position at this time. I'm going to get you out of this. That's what you're looking for. So, was it as horrible as they made out? She got beat up. And our job as the referee is to say, look at fighters in that position. Professional fighters get paid to get damaged. That's just part of what they get paid for. Now, what we're there for is to say, all right, this is legitimate. This is all acceptable damage. And now it gets to the point of, I do not allow the person to get unacceptable damage. And that's when they can no longer be in the fight. And what I would look at and what's going through my head is I'm looking and saying, does Priscilla have a puncher's chance? No. She showed on her feet she doesn't have a puncher's chance. She can't even stand with Valentina. Does she have a submitter's chance? Not even close. Doesn't have the ability to submit Valentina. What's best for her right now is to me to get her out of this fight so she doesn't get unacceptable damage. What's best for her, what's best for the sport of MMA, what's best for the fans. That's my criteria, and now I get to that point. No. Stop the fight. It's over.
I like that you brought that up, too, about the different, every fight's a different way, because of watching that, we're so used to watching a certain level of action and a certain definitive stoppage, and we didn't really get that, level of fighter or that definitive stoppage, and it reminded me of amateur events that I have either watched or been a part of myself, or in an amateur boxing match. I've had Mark Smith tell me, hey, protect yourself, and I'm like, why is he telling me to, I've been tagged a lot. I'm not that good at this boxing thing. Yeah, I should probably protect myself. I was lucky enough to get through it, but again, I felt like the referee felt I was safe because he was on top of it to make sure if it started going way too one direction. And it's a little tricky though, because that's a big stage. You're in the big stage UFC, but you're having a kind of
it is. But I want you to look at it this way. Okay, you're looking at that fight. Khabib is going to be fighting coming up.
Right.
He's going to be fighting Tony Ferguson, and I've done a bunch of Khabib fights. Okay, and every time I have refereed Khabib Nurmagomedov, he has dominated his opponent, dominated a good fighter, dominated Rafael Dos Anjos, dominated Michael Johnson, dominated Edson Barboza. Okay, now you watch what Michael Johnson is trying to do to get himself back into the fight. He's doing the right things. I'm going to let it go because he's doing the right things. He's putting his hands in the right places. He's just having this problem with this dominant guy. Edson Barboza, he's getting the shit beat out of him, but he's doing the right things to try to get him back. And so this is where I say, fighters get paid to get damage. It's the unnecessary damage when they're not doing those right things. That's when we get them out of the fight.
Great explanation.
We're going to take this break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, Rush 93. We're going to try and connect with Smiling Sam Alvey when we come back.
Thank you.
The Jim Rome Show is now on SiriusXM weekdays at noon. Catch The Jungle and the rest of the CBS Sports Network on Channel 201 and on the SiriusXM app. I miss The Jungle. I used to grab a vine from time to time and go in there, swing in there and talk some smack. All right, Smiling Sam Alvey's joining us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What a beautiful hook.
That one was beautiful. Now look at you.
It was. Well, that one was nice,
It
man.
was.
He was retreating and he took out Marcin. Is everybody in Poland named Marcin? It seems that way, right? That must be like the John, right, of Poland.
Yep.
Marcin Pracino, excuse me. Sam Alvey took him out. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up, Smiling Sam? How you doing?
Hey, I'm feeling great, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Well, get your pen and paper out. We got a lot of people here. Dan, Goes, and George. We're the hosts of MMA Junkie Radio. Good to have you back. We also have Big John McCarthy here co-hosting with us as well. And we are all in praise and awe of that counter hook that you threw. That was really, really nice, man. I mean, pinpoint, a lot of power. You stepped into it. It was great.
It felt great. It was one of those punches that it landed, and you kind of feel part of his soul floating away. And I just knew. I knew as soon as it landed that was it.
Now, I don't know if it was just this particular punch or what, but you must have really shored up the boxing in the last few months because you were throwing a lot harder than I remember you throwing. Now, granted, a few of those fights, like I remember the latest fight, you damaged your ankle or your knee, and so you weren't able to put everything. But you had some good pop in this one.
You know what? I've been working. I work year-round. Even when my ankle was broken, I was working trying to get better. I'm not the best yet, but I'm well on my way in that direction at least.
Mm-hmm. Where does this rank in terms of the the wins that you've had. I mean, this was like I said, I can't stop talking about the punch itself, but we don't see many like that in mixed martial arts. You pretty much lulled him in, and then boom, smacked him, walked off. It was a thing of beauty.
Like I said, it felt pretty good. My boxing coach Gustavo and I, we work boxing a lot. And honestly, more impressive to me is I kicked in this fight. I don't ever kick, but I was planning on kicking in this one, and I got at least a few of them in there.
Does fighting at 205, by the way, make you strike harder in any way? Is it because at 85 you are depleting, and we always question whether these fighters get back to 100% of what they are. So could that possibly be it?
Yeah, maybe. But honestly, I walked into the octagon at about the same weight I did when I'm at middleweight. Usually I'm at about 215, 217, somewhere in there after I've made weight at middleweight.
Right.
And I walked in at 205, I was about 215, 217 again.
You walked in at the same weight, but you didn't have to go through a sit in a sauna or a tracksuit or a bath. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and that was pretty nice, not having just the easiest weight cut of my career. I mean, I woke up 0.4 over. I took a little bath, drank a little water, and then I was on weight. It was awesome.
There you go.
But honestly, other than my last fight over in Poland, that one I felt the weight cut. That was just too much weight in too little time. But every other time, I feel great in the cage. I usually, if parts of me aren't broken, anyways.
All right, Dan Tom, what do you have for Smiling Sam Alvey?
Well, first I just got to say congrats, Sam, and I got to co-sign with George here. Sam's been on my podcast before, and if I do a top 5 check hooks, that may just have to be on there. So
it's got to be.
Congrats, Sam. That was an amazing job this past Saturday.
Well, thank you so much. I might have 2 or 3 on your list then.
Okay, yeah, you do, yeah. Because let's be honest, the check right hook, it's a weapon that I'm sure no southpaw should leave home without, right, Sam?
Oh, absolutely. It's landed for me a few times. My fight to get the Ultimate Fighter, there's the check right hook.
And not to...
it's there for me often.
Oh, sorry, Sam. Continue.
Oh, I said, yeah, it's there for me often. And it's something I call it my ginger hook. It's my ginger hook.
I was going to say not to condone it, but that's also one of the best punches you can throw in a street fight. If it goes down like that, and you have to get down, always be nice, talk your way out of it, blah, 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 all the things I'm supposed to say. But if it has to go down, it's not a bad one.
100%. And, you touched a little bit on the weight cut and the benefits of not having to have as much of one. Now, I know in your podcast, the Pound for Pound podcast there with Jordan Killian, you guys talked about your post-fight Disneyland trip. Now, are you doing damage in this Disneyland trip like Max Holloway and putting down churros? Are we staying at 205 for sure? Like, is this where we're going for sure, Sam, or what's going on?
Yeah, I'm doing the same diet I do at the end of every fight, whether it's a middleweight or 205. I'm eating whatever I want to eat.
That's a seafood diet.
I give myself, seafood diet. Whatever I want for 1 week. I'll get back to camp on next Monday, and then I'll be back. I'll get back on my diet, and I'll start lifting. God, I love lifting. That was probably the best thing about the weight is I get to lift all camp. Because when I'm at middleweight, if I keep lifting, I don't lose any weight. So here at 205, I can lift the whole time, and I'll maintain weight at about where I want to be.
Goes.
Sam, here at MMA Junkie Radio, we know you're a dangerous individual. We know what's up. But sometimes the odds makers, some of the critics out there, they're not always on the same page, and you have to prove them wrong. Is it difficult to not have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder having to repeatedly do stuff like that?
You know what? I kind of like being the underdog. I made so many of my friends money. I had Paul. He's at my gym. He came out to this fight. He put his like $1,500 on me.
Damn.
I think he walked away he walked away with like $3,500. He said, "Man, this paid for my trip. Paid for my trip home. It paid for my food and hotel. Man, I love this." And all my buddies. As soon as I think I saw 2 plus 210 at the beginning of the week. I put that out on Facebook. I said, "Guys, if you're going to bet on me now."
Wow, I love it.
I love being the underdog just because I can make my buddy some money.
We also have Big John McCarthy, Bellator MMA's color commentator. Big John, I'm sure you've called some Sam Alvey fights in the past.
I have called quite a few. The one thing that no one understands, you can watch Sam, comes in smiling, and that's his nickname, and he's happy. He's got his wife there in his corner.
Hey, soul sister.
Sometimes he's even got his kids in the back. But I'll tell you what, he hits like a truck, and you can see when he hits somebody, you see the reaction on their face, like, "Oh shit, I'm feeling that down to my heels." And all of a sudden they slow in everything they do. And that Sam lulls everyone. It's exactly what he did in this fight. He's going back, and you see the fighter coming just a little bit fast forward. Boom, that right hand comes over and just accordion folds him. Beautiful job, Sam. It was beautiful to see. I love seeing that, man.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Oh, thank you. I love hearing that from you. You're my favorite rep, now you get to be my favorite commentator. In flattering me, this is just a good moment.
I appreciate it, man.
You know, you said it. It wasn't just the power; it was the speed,
and it was the setup.
Yeah,
that's what people don't get.
Great technique.
You watch what he's doing. You watch that slide of the foot, and he comes and he's boom, boom, and this guy takes that big step forward. That momentum he's bringing, as now Sam's coming forward and bap, and he hits him. It intensifies that punch to where it shuts your lights off. That's all smart fighting by Sam. He's lulling him in. He's bringing him in. Let this guy gets a little over anxious and wants to make something happen. It's the end of the fight.
Speaking of deceptive fight IQ, can I just say while we have him on, there was a theme of significant others cornering, and we've seen this more. But I will say, not only is Sam's wife an OG, is somebody who who analyzes what corners are communicating to their fighters. I look for this. She's right on point, man. I'll put her against any of the other, and most male cornermen. If you actually listen to what Sam's wife's saying, she is sharp, man. So please pay that compliment to her, Sam.
I tell everyone she took this sport more serious than I did for the longest time. It was just something I kind of like doing, and she's the reason I moved to California for training. She's the reason she's the reason for a lot of this. And I know she does have that chip on her shoulder because after every fight she goes on the SureDog forums and the Reddit forum, and people just hate seeing female cornermen. And so she uses that. She's got that chip on her shoulder. She's out to make sure all of those haters on the internet are wrong every fight.
That's awesome. Well, hey, I know I think you're still in Florida with the family and all that, so we'll keep it short. But hey, congrats again, and I know you'll be fighting soon. Hopefully, we'll catch up with you again soon before your next bout.
Yeah, I look forward to it. And if anyone ever wants to chat with me, hit me up on Twitter. It's @SmilingSam. I love talking to everyone, and I respond to almost all of them.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Sam, for your time.
Hey, thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Okay, you too. All right, folks, that's Smiling Sam Alvey, winning as a light heavyweight. I guess we should have asked, but I've heard the opening's there for both weight classes. I already know that answer. Let's jump on a few more of the calls that we have, Danny. Who's left here? Scott from Utah?
Utah.
Yeah, Scott from Utah. What's up, buddy?
What's up, boys?
How you doing, bud?
Hey, guys. I'm one of these freaks that enjoys watching fighting every weekend. But when I listen to these MMA podcasts and critics, they seem to be always harping on oversaturation and too many fights. And I always wondered if, like, the UFC and Bellator took them seriously and started cutting back on the number of fights, how would that affect the MMA community? What ripple effects would it have? I mean, would MMA Junkie Radio be able to do a daily show if there's less content, less things to talk about? Would Russ be able to make a living? How many fighters would get cut? You know?
We would definitely be able to do a show. We'd be a lot thinner, probably, right? Because we'd have more time to work out or something.
No nachos.
Yeah. No, I don't know about that, Big John. Don't be too hasty.
Well, we got a chance to commentate fights because there was shows out there that took a chance on us, and had they not been there, then who knows? John, I'm sure there was plenty of weekends that you got to work that were outside of Bellator and UFC.
All the time.
Numerous, right?
Look at last year, I probably worked 100 shows, and that was after being even hurt and not doing shows for almost 2 months. But there's so many shows out there. The real question is, with Bellator and the UFC is, they've got 222 coming up here, and what I'm hearing from people is, it's just not what it used to be as far as the lineup. And I think it's a matter of the lineup is good. It's that the people don't know these people the same as what they knew people in the past.
Yeah.
They would look at a card and they knew everybody on that card, and so they were excited for the whole card. Where, look at the UFC has got to bring in new blood. I saw this whole thing. It was funny. I think it was on MMA Junkie, and I think it was Ben Folks, and they're talking about trading fighters between Bellator and the UFC. You know, who would you trade? And it cracked me up because every fighter that they were saying they would trade from the UFC to Bellator was an old fighter. Okay? They're right near the end of their career. And every fighter that was going to the UFC were all these young studs that have their whole career ahead of them that are going to be something special. They're all going to the UFC. And I go, yeah, that trade wouldn't happen. Okay? That's like trading, Tom Brady is a great quarterback. How many years does he have left?
Yeah.
Okay? And you're not trading someone young and good for Tom Brady now because you're not going to have him. But there are so many fighters out there now, comparatively, that are so good that people don't know. And if you're not one of these crazy idiots like me that knows everybody in the sport almost and watches guys from Dagestani or Chechnya or any of these places where these guys are coming from at times, there's some incredible fighters out there. And the UFC as a company or Bellator as a company have got to bring these people in so you start to get to see them. Mm-hmm. And you start to get to understand how good they are. And so the cards are going to be a little bit different than they were in the past. It's just part of the process of promotion.
How about even just sticking to refereeing? Frank Trigg, he can't just immediately become a ref and jump to the UFC. He's getting his reps at some of these smaller shows.
Exactly.
So these smaller shows help fine-tune the refs so that they can progress through their careers.
And the fighters to get
Josh
experience.
Rosenthal's getting back in. He didn't immediately come back to the UFC. He'll start to slowly go back up. Younger fighters that fight in these smaller shows like LFA, where usually the winner of the main event is getting promoted, or moving on to another organization. We definitely need them. As far as the UFC, I would like to see less pay-per-views because either that or give me more pay-per-view worthy cards. And they're not doing that, so maybe give me less pay-per-views and fatten those bad boys up a little bit.
They tried, though. It's just injuries.
And this one,
are killing them, yeah.
They didn't try that hard on this one.
It is the one
nice
thing.
To have Holloway,
not compared to like when they released Detroit. I remember looking at Detroit going, what? Pettis and Cejudo? What? Gagey and
Alvarez?
They're supposed to be coaching here. Usually they highlight that. Nope, they're sending them to Detroit. Aldo and Holloway and the big guys, Ngannou and Alistair Overeem.
Yep.
I just remember going, wow, and they lost Felder and Iaquinta.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The card that's coming up here on Saturday wasn't. I mean, they had to scramble for Cyborg.
Right.
Ortega slips in for Edgar, no problem there. It's not a title fight, but I'm still okay with that matchup. But after that, there was a big drop, man. Vegas charges a lot for their tickets.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just could be a better card. Look, man, I'm the first one to go. Like Saturday, we had great fights. On paper, wasn't sexy, but we all sat there, we watched, we come back going, hey, those are some great fights, some finishes, blah blah blah. Controversy aside, but at the same time, going into the card, we have every right to go. That card doesn't look that good. It's not
especially when you're paying for it. It needs to be that big card. Look at any fight that's out there. I love when people sit there and they'll complain about something on the UFC when it's on FS1. It's like you get to watch it for free. When they're going to complain about Bellator, it's on Paramount. You get to watch it for free. What are you complaining about?
Yeah.
You don't know which fight on a card is going to be fight of the year, and that happens, And man, you've got to look at any free fight you get. It's awesome. Just be happy. When you're paying for it, like you talk about the one in Detroit, that was a great card to buy. You're looking at the one,
and that was on the heels of New York. They got 3 title fights.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And I think with the oversaturation argument that Scott's bringing up, I think that's a thing that it should remind people that it is free fights, and these criticisms, whether they're hypocritical or not, you have to be willing to accept it if you're willing to accept the environment of today. And I think that's what Scott's call is. It's basically how much of it is the environment of today, and how much of it is stuff that we could change, because it is a climate where, you know, you don't want to say you should be lucky to have your job, but it's true. A lot of people in the media, you know, we're lucky to have our jobs. There's not a lot of seats at the table, and if you have a seat, you're probably having to wear a lot of different hats to keep that seat, and that's just the way of things. That's fine. That's the way of the world in a lot of ways. But I guess what Scott's saying is how much for people like me who say there's oversaturation, says, okay, well, if we take away how much of it, you know, how much the jobs get taken away. And I think the thing to keep in mind is everything about this argument is a two-way street. You know, you guys just said, well, we used to do commentary gigs. You could say, well, if there's less shows, there's less money at the proverbial table. I guess that's true from one point of view. Or you could say now there's more roads clear for the smaller shows, more competition drives a more healthier market, and now you guys have more time to do commentary, and these shows have more incentive to give you jobs and other guys jobs to do more reffing, commentary, etc. More time to put into develop guys, so you know who they are by the time they get to the big show before they get lost in the big problem. So again, it's not an either-or argument, and I think that's what's so frustrating about the oversaturation. I know it seems like I'm on one side of it, but I think it's a connective two-way street here that we need to realize. You know, that's my 2 cents. But
Scott from Utah, thanks for the call as always.
All right, guys.
All right, but you know, John, headliners, we can grow all these young guys, and we can watch them fight and go, "That's a good fighter. That's a good fighter."
Mm-hmm.
But if your name doesn't mean anything, it's not going to sell.
Yeah,
it's not going to provide ratings. It's not going to be pay-per-view draws. It's not going to pop. You know what I mean? Or ticket sales. There really is something to that, and that's something that I want to see both Bellator and the UFC continue to make those people. Those fighters, excuse me, it usually parallels winning, but those fighters, they have to mean a little bit more, and that's something that I feel like it's tough because MMA is so fucking competitive that somebody loses and all of a sudden the hype train ends, you know what I mean? But why is it that you can still go, hey, Rampage is fighting?
Because he's got a Q rating that's out of
this
this
as soon
world.
as you hear the music, you don't even want to miss his walk to the fight. You know what I mean? He's got the chain. He's got the howling. He built that up one way or another.
Yeah.
You know, Pride, the UFC, even King of the Cage back in the day was when I remember him. And we don't get that with some of the other fighters. There's like this fall off, and no one wants anything to do with them. And I don't understand how that happened. You know,
not like Japanese matchmaking.
Everything is set. Fighters are going to look and go, look, I'm a great fighter. And you can look at me and go, you are. But you need to be smarter about the business end of fighting. And a lot of fighters do not get it. They just don't. They look and they go, well, Bellator should promote me, or the UFC should promote me. And it's like, stop. Quit saying that someone besides yourself should be promoting you. You need to promote yourself, and you need to promote your promoter and tell all these people, hey, I'm fighting in Bellator on March 2nd. You know, you're going to see me from the WinStar Casino, or, you know, I'm fighting with the UFC, and you're going to see me from the T-Mobile Arena. That's part of your job. You can't sit there and expect somebody else to take an interest in what is the business aspect of your career if you're not going to. And there's fighters out there. Look at Quentin did a great job of being that first guy that started to get people interested in him off of what's he going to say next. Mm-hmm. He's crazy. Mm-hmm. And that caught people. Chael Sonnen, you look at what Chael sells a fight so beautifully. And he says things that you look, whether it's before the fight or after the fight. Man, he grabs a hold of people and makes them go, I want to see him win, or I want to see him get crushed. It doesn't matter. They want to see him.
Chael's a great example because, like you said, the first step and starting this, it's even the best examples like Chael. Go back and look at where they started. The most important breakdown I ever did was the shittiest one I did because I wouldn't be here, or have a job if I didn't just write something down on a piece of paper. Same with these guys. Chael, WEC 36, I want to say. First time I see him, he fights Brian Baker, a fight probably nobody saw. But after that post-fight interview, I'm like, who is this guy? Was a decision win. It wasn't that exciting, but it was Chael's post-fight. He's already committing to the character back then, guys. Go back and watch it. He's going, I, unlike other people in the UFC, will fight anybody that God's created. I'm not a religious guy, but I got me chills down my spine. I'm like, who is this? This guy's calling people out. But to your point.
That's the whole point. He figured it out. Because look at when Chael first got into fighting, the nicest, most respectful, come in a suit with a tie. He was absolutely the greatest nice guy there was. and realized this ain't doing anything. This is not pushing anyone's buttons. I got to start pushing buttons, and got smart about it and became phenomenal at it. You know, the one thing, if you're going to look and you go, he just didn't do it early enough in his career, because he's still doing it to this day, and he pulls out, his win against Rampage. You look at that win, okay? No matter what anyone wants to say, Quentin is dangerous on his feet. Mm-hmm. And you look at some of the takedowns that Chael hit. We're talking outside, inside trips, but turning a corner with it, which is not what you normally do. And you go, man, that's beautiful. That, I get all geeked out. And when it comes to the technical side of what guys are doing, that's when I get all excited. And it's like, oh, you don't understand how good that is. You realize what he just did, because going straight back, he was not going to get him down, but he was smart enough when he did it. He ends up turning that corner with it. That's not something that we teach, but it's something he did. And it's like, God dang it, that's good. And, his ability to fight, you look at the Grand Prix that Bellator is doing. I've heard all kinds of stuff about people. Well, they've got light heavyweights. You got Mo Law. Okay, let's take a look at Mo Law. Who has he fought? Everybody. Name me the fight that Mo Law turned down.
None.
Not heavyweights.
And he's actually like 13-1 as a heavyweight.
He's 9-1 as a heavyweight.
9-1? Okay.
9-1. His only loss is to Cro Cop in Japan.
He was winning that one.
He was winning it, and he got hit. What Cro Cop does, and especially when he's feeling better with his vitamins, it's awesome. Okay, whatever, but that's his only loss. Everybody else at heavyweight he has beaten. And why? Because he's fast. And people don't understand, and this is where you get in with fighters, and it's like, you all talk about, I want to be the bigger, stronger guy. If I take a fighter and I say, you're going to fight this really big, strong guy, you're going to fight this really fast guy, which guy do you want to fight? They'll go, I'll take the big, strong guy. Then why are you trying to be the bigger, stronger, be the faster guy? That's what Mo Law's doing. Unfortunately, they put him against the other light heavyweight, who's Bader, who's going to be a big guy. Bader's going to come in at 230, 35. He's going to be the bigger guy. But it's an interesting fight. And you look at that, that's what's important. Mir against Fedor. I love that fight. Why? Because that's the fight that should have taken place years ago when
they both held their belts.
Mir was the heavyweight champion of the UFC, and Fedor was the heavyweight champion of Pride. And everyone said, Fedor would kill Mir. Okay, but we didn't know. And now I get to watch him fight. And yeah, there are two different points in their career, but Mir hasn't fought for a long time. He's coming off of what was a suspension with USADA, and being out of the ring. It's a great fight, because look at, both guys can win. And that's what you're looking at. I love the tournament format when it's not the same as it was in the early days of everything in the same night. I don't like...
You like the staggered throughout the year?
Absolutely, because I know what the next fight's going to be. I can see it. And that tells me there's no promoter getting his nose in the way and saying, I'm going to do this instead. I know exactly what there's going to be, and I know which direction that train's going to be on. That's what I want to see. And I don't care if it's whatever weight it is. It doesn't matter to me what weights. I love when they have tournament formats to come up with. You get to fight the champion, or you get to be the champion.
Yeah. All right. So you won't be calling Caldwell versus Higo, but
nope.
When we come back, give us a little breakdown of that fight. It's a world title fight that happens on March 2nd at the WinStar World Casino Resort in Thackerville, Oklahoma. John gave up. Or not gave up, is no longer a referee because he didn't want to travel. Little does he know he's going to Hungary pretty soon. That might be one of the further journeys he's ever had to take. All right, it's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93.
because they don't know where those people have been, and because they can. They are Gorgeous George and Goes, and this is MMA Junkie Radio.
All right, it's time for the daily debate. Today's MMA Junkie Radio poll question is, if Dana White's Contender Series returns, do you want to see Snoop Dogg back on the commentary? So far, the votes have come in. 1,684 have voted. 73% said no. 27% said yes. Dan Tom, what do you say?
I'm good with the public on this one. I'll say no. Nothing against Snoop Dogg, but as far as mixed martial arts or entertainment, I think if they want to take chances, there's better ones they could. They gave him a shot. Rubbed some fighters the wrong way, rubbed some fans the wrong way. No blood, no foul, but I'll say no with this.
I will say yes because he's not the main broadcast. He's the alternative broadcast, so you have a choice. And I know the UFC's trying stuff, and he has said some unfortunate things, but who hasn't? So what about you guys?
I never watch fights alone, so that means I'm usually in a room with somebody that's already going to say crazy stuff. So I don't need a second guy. I don't need him to come back.
What about you, Big John?
I love Snoop. He's funny, and it's based exactly on what you said. If he was the lone commentary team, I would say no, because he doesn't have the knowledge necessary. They got Uriah sitting there with him, and that's the guy that's going to bring it back to being about fighting. But since it's a secondary, I'm all for it. Mm-hmm. I like it.
There you have it. Today's daily debate featuring Bellator MMA color commentator Big John McCarthy. All right, Big John, so we got to get on out of here. Want to thank you so much for coming in here and clarifying everything from the lens of an experienced referee, now a color commentator. We definitely look forward to your next call. And might we tell you, you are doing outstanding. I had a feeling it would go down that way because I sense something like what I see in pro football where they immediately go to Mike Pereira. Hey, how would you have settled this? And there's so much knowledge being kicked at us. Not to say that you can't call it like a color commentator because you are, but bringing in that other knowledge has been amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man.
Can we tease?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
It's not the only McCarthy that we're going to have on the show.
His wife, Elaine McCarthy, is going to co-host. She's committed to co-hosting a show, so we'll get her on.
All the dirt.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Everyone is so screwed.
And we got to make sure to get her a parking pass because she's going to be driving a bus that day, hopefully, right? That this gentleman's going to get thrown under.
That's right. We're going to throw him under the bus. Show. All right. We are out of here. For Big John, Danny Beckys, Goes, and Dan, I'm George. Have a nice day. Go out there and be champions.